Hey everybody, it's time to taste our sauerkraut. It's been just over a week since I made this batch here, and it should be a week for most of you since you made your batch. You can tell I used a purple leaf to weight my sauerkraut down because the purple color has spread down into the batch. Let's go ahead and open this up and just take a peek at it. And first thing I'm noting here is just the way it looks. Mine looks really good. I will say though that my cabbage leaf that I put in on top to hold the sauerkraut down in the brine, it's not working as well as some other methods I've used. And the cabbage has kind of expanded up, and so the top of the leaf is out of the brine, and there's a little bit of the sauerkraut out of the brine, and that's not what you want. You want all of your cabbage under the brine in that anaerobic environment where the bacteria you want to be growing there will prosper and do well. It doesn't look like I have any ill effect. Next, let's smell it. Sometimes right when you take your lid off, there's gases that have been bubbling out, and you'll have an extra strong smell, so you may want to give it just a second. I'm going to pull this top leaf out and set it aside on a clean surface here. One of the problems with using a cabbage leaf as a weight is that it gets mushy, so it becomes less and less effective. Some of you may be a little bit nervous about trying this if this is your first time making sauerkraut. If you've never tasted sauerkraut before, you may be wondering, well, how am I supposed to know if it's good? Well, the basic answer to that is the vast majority of you are going to do two things to know it's good. You're going to look at it, and we don't see anything growing on top. We don't see any mold. We don't see any scum. And you're going to smell it, and this is what people say, and it's true. I've actually never had a bad batch of sauerkraut, but you're going to know if it's bad when you smell and taste it. You're going to know because it will be foul. If it looks good and you taste it and it doesn't taste bad, then it's okay. I've looked around online quite a bit and haven't found significant warnings anywhere about the danger of fermenting vegetables. When you look at canning, that's a whole different story, and many people have gotten sick from canning improperly. But fermenting has its own built-in safety measures, and people generally don't get sick from it. I'm referring to fermenting vegetables here. Once you get into the land of fermenting beans and soy products, there have been some cases of serious illnesses, but not very many. So let's go ahead and try it. If your sauerkraut looks good, there's no mold on it, and it smells okay, it's going to smell strong, but it's going to smell like sauerkraut, not a nasty, foul smell, just a sharp smell, then it's time to take a bite. It's salty. It's crunchy, it's acidic. I love this. So good. And I'll have to keep myself from eating too much here. Really, really yummy. I'm very happy with that so far. Alright, like I said in the first sauerkraut video, you have a choice. If you love this sauerkraut right now, you can take it, put a lid, a regular lid, and the ring, you can seal it and put it in the fridge. It's going to basically preserve your sauerkraut in this state for quite a long time in your fridge. It probably won't last very long if you're anything like me. If you want to continue down this journey though of fermenting and see where we end up with this sauerkraut, keep your sauerkraut out. I'm going to keep this batch out hopefully for the next couple weeks. I've never actually had a batch last longer than 2 weeks because it always gets eaten by the kids. But I have a secret plan for that. I have this over here that we can eat. And this is a batch of, I might call it Krauty. So like it's kind of kimchi-like sauerkraut. It has radishes. It has beets in it. It has onion, garlic, ginger, fish sauce, and this is what we'll be eating for the next couple, maybe next 2 weeks, so I can preserve this sauerkraut so I can continue down the flavor, on the flavor journey, so to speak. A few of you may have some problems with mold or yeast, and what yeast looks like is like a white, pink to creamy, kind of thin. Either it can be a scum on top of your brine, or it could be covering the top of your vegetables if they're sticking up like mine. Generally the yeasts, these light colored yeasts, are not a problem, and you might know them. You can actually taste them and they're not going to hurt you. They're going to taste kind of alcohol like, taste like yeast, and you can just remove that top layer if you're comfortable doing that. Throw it out. Taste your sauerkraut underneath that. If it's still tasting yeasty, you can remove a little bit more, and generally you're safe to do this. Molds can be a little bit more distressing because they can be kind of weird shapes and fuzzy growths. Generally you can remove mold from the top of sauerkraut and still eat the sauerkraut underneath. I'm not going to tell you like go do this. It's really up to you, but people do this frequently. So if you do have some mold on your sauerkraut and can remove that mold and feel like you have the mold out of there, you should be able to continue along with the rest of us, and you should be able to taste your sauerkraut that you got from beneath that mold. Another small issue that I have here, and you may have, is not enough brine. If you're going to continue along fermenting your food, especially, you want to make sure it's covered with brine. So there's a couple things you can do with that. You could get a fresh cabbage leaf, stuff it down and pack it down real tight, and just check it every couple days to make sure that everything is under the brine. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I wanted to keep this process as simple as possible to show you that you can make sauerkraut. You don't really need any special tools. You don't have to buy anything special. Just go ahead and make it and get started. I'm going to use, what is this? This is a 4 ounce, I believe, mason jar, small mouth jar. And this is a little trick. You can tell them you learned it here unless you learned it somewhere else. I'm going to fill this little 4 ounce mason jar with a little bit of water, and I'm going to set it down inside my large mouth jar and just push it down. And I find that using a wide mouth mason jar to ferment in, and then using a small mouth, either the 4 ounce or the 8 ounce mason jar as a weight with a little water in it, it works perfectly. That's what I did over here with my batch of Kraut, and it holds everything down really, really well into the brine. So I think that's the simplest fermenting weight that you can use. I love this setup. It's so simple. Honestly, I should have showed you the other day, but I didn't want to add another thing to the list to get in anyone's way to ferment. So what I'm going to do is just take a very clean cotton napkin and throw it over that because I don't have any paper towels in the house. And I'm going to put my ring back on, and this is going to go back on the fridge just like that. Because I could say a lot more, but I don't want to make this extensive video because just a few people have had an issue with their sauerkraut. So I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. It'll be one of the first things in the description, and it's to one of the best kind of systematic lost all my words. It's a link to one of the most systematic websites that just goes through all the possible problems you could have with a batch of sauerkraut like this. I've found it to be very helpful myself, though I've actually never really had any of the issues in it, but it goes point by point by point. Very, very good. If you're having an issue, you're uncomfortable with removing mold, go check this website out. Just read her detailed description, and I think that you'll find that helpful. I would love to know what everyone thought of how their sauerkraut tasted today, and also if you would leave a comment, tell me, are you choosing to keep your batch out, or do you like it so much that you're going to put it in the fridge? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you're enjoying this. I'm probably going to do this again next Saturday. I may add in another project, but I think I'm going to open this sauerkraut again. It'll probably be a really short video next Saturday, and just check with you all, see how your sauerkraut's doing. Ask any questions in the comments you have, and I'll try to answer them. You'll have a great evening.